A reading, HotPot with a side of hope. Reggie and his wife Susan were standing outside the restaurant where they had a reservation for the night. The restaurant was a Korean hot pot shop called Hoedown Hot Pot, an establishment that is a fusion of Korean and Southern cooking. Hoedown Hot Pot had an excellent reputation, and its cooks used hot pot cooking techniques passed down through generations. Reggie asked, "Are we sure this isn't something sketchy?" His wife Susan tells him, "No, I have heard around town that was legit and has worked in the past." Reggie nods and opens the door for his wife, ready for whatever is on the other side. The couple enters a small lobby and a small man is behind a counter. He has a welcoming smile. He greets them. "Hello, welcome to Hoedown Hot Pot. I will be your server, Mr. Humeng, and what will we be having today?" "We've come for the High Hopes Hot Pot for two," Susan says. "We heard it was a special dish that made people were trying to make a future together." Mr. Humang nodded and said, "Yes, it is a specialty dish that is made up to be shared and cooked together." He adds with a rehearsed flair, "Whatever the venture and with whoever, it's best to go on a stomach full of hope." He finishes with, "The only thing that we need to know is the endeavor. Everybody wishes to be successful at so many things." Susan pipes up with, "We are trying to build a family and we want a happy child." Reggie adds, "Along with the child, be successful in their future." Pausing for a moment in thought, Mr. Huming smiled and directed them, saying, "Of course. This way, please." Mr. Huming leaves and Reggie asks, "So where do we decide on how we can make this kid successful?" Susan sighs and says, "I thought we were focused on the child being happy." Reggie looks up and says, "They'll be happy if they're successful and can get the job done." Susan shoots back with, "Well, if they're happy, it should be easier to achieve it without being miserable the whole time." Reggie throws back with, "We live in an increasingly more competitive world and they need to meet the standards that keep going up." The two look at each other and despite talking about it for a while, they are both still at a standstill. What they think of what will be right for the baby. Mr. Huang pokes his head through and asks, "Is everything going okay? I heard you two talking a lot." The two just looked at each other silently. Mr. Huang asks, "Do you want some help to help the process?" Reggie turns his gaze on him and says, "I think this is a private matter, but we are open to hearing more about our successful child's future." Susan frowns and says, "We would like to do it ourselves, but that seems practically impossible at this point." Mr. Huang nods his head and says that, "Well, I see there's an argument, and most arguments that I've seen come from deciding on a definition." He continues, "You both have your definition of happy and success, but will that align with your child's?" Both look at each other a little shamefully and listen to Mr. Humane. He pauses and continues. People usually have good expectations and intentions, but we know where those both lead to." Reggie interrupts. "We just want is best for our child, and that they can take care of themselves." Susan adds, "Yes, we want to make the best plan for our child to be happy, and we don't think that we are asking for too much." Miss Huang sighs and says, "Well, your expectations and rigidity will crush it along with constrict your child's life." Also, he adds, "With the child should choose content and as long as isn't hurting them, support them." Mr. Huang continues, "The world and others will give your child more than enough expectations. You should be the two that shouldn't." He finished with, "The last thing I want you to know is this. It's usually the fault of the chef when the dish comes out wrong, not the ingredients." Reggie and Sarah look at each other and nod, knowing it to be true. They bring in the food, leaving the two to their own devices. There is a cornucopia of meats, vegetables, breads, and condiments to cook in the hot pot. Similarly, the special has two couples cook and feed each other the food from the pot. The ritual starts with sauces and decorate food to symbolize how you want your child to be. Reggie and Sarah say some words for choosing what to eat. Reggie asks Sarah, "What do you think we need to pick first?" "This is something I think is very important." Susan chooses first and picks the oyster mushrooms to cook first. She puts them in the broth and lets them cook for a little, then brings them out on a plate. She decorates each one with little faces and tells Reggie, "I want them to have lots of friends." Reggie nods and they both eat together with an easy one out of the way. Reggie grabs a pork chop and Brussels sprouts, dumping them in the hot pot. Sarah looks quizzically at Reggie and says, "What are you planning?" Reggie hits back with, "Simmer down, honey, and let the heat do the work." Reggie pulls the pork chop out and the Brussels sprouts. drizzling S on the pork chop, he explains. I want my child to be driven, and I believe you need a suitable set of wheels to stay the course. His wife shakes her head and says, how about they're driven to work hard and have resolve so that they can be successful? Sarah continues, I'll raise your smarts, and we can think of the car later. Can you work with me? Reggie nods and says, I like that, and hard work is the fuel that'll help them be successful. His partner takes the lead, moving on with pieces of tofu and chicken, along with pieces of spinach. She puts in the pot, and Reggie asks, what are you doing? Sarah replies, chill out. I don't want your impatience to boil over. Sarah brings out the tofu and chicken with the pieces of spinach connecting two different food groups. Sarah explains, I want them to communicate and understand other people, even the people they don't like. Reggie nods in agreement and says, that's a good one. I think it's really important, especially these days. Sarah smiles. I want our child to feel part of something bigger than themselves, to not be so selfish in the world becoming more than ever. They both look at each other. Each has an idea for the last dish. Reggie and Sarah throw in noodles along with most of the other ingredients on the table. After the noodles are done, the couple moves on to the other morsels put in the pot. Similarly, they put the noodles on the plate and put the other ingredients on top of the noodles in a configuration showing a village. Reggie turns to his wife and says, this is one of the most important things to have in this world, bar none. Community. Sarah nods, exactly. One of the best things we can teach that if we feed the people we care about, maybe no one would go hungry again.